Hello, squad. Future Travis here. Just want to say two things before we get to the episode. First, we had some internet issues during the recording, and at some point, so the conversation will sound a little broken up, but we did our best to reiterate what we were talking about and get back on track. Second, in the beginning, I state that I heard about Dr. Wu from Trainer Road, but that was untrue. I heard about him from a content creator called VC Adventures, which is formerly known as the Vegan Cyclist, and I linked the video where I heard about him in the show notes below. So thank you all for your understanding and enjoy the episode with GluteDoperDoc. Welcome, fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together. All right, guys, welcome to episode number 39 with Dr. Timothy Wu. He's a PT, DPT, and he's the guy that glute doper.
What's up?
So it's great. It's great having you on from the West Coast. So it's good. I heard about you from Trainer Road. Is when they were mentioning you and some of your stuff through that. So so they were just talking about how like activating the glutes is basically like the missing link in some of your some of the performance gains in cycling. And so that's when me and Danny kind of started picking you up on the radar, like I don't know, a couple of years ago probably. And then Danny's gone through a whole session, and I'm really intrigued because I probably don't use my glutes enough when I run, because I do triathlon a lot. And so I figured, I need all the help I can get. So we really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us for sure. So
hey, Travis and Danny, it's my pleasure. First of all, I love the name SufferSooner. It's kind of like a glute doping mentality. It's like, well, like you it's the cycling mentality. It's like you're gonna have to kind of put in the work now. And then when you go and you do the test, whether it's against yourself or a course or someone else, like, then the truth just it shows up.
Yeah.
If you haven't failed and then just had that solo ride back, knowing, I wasn't prepared, it starts to develop that character within you that you like desire to suffer sooner. You think ahead now. So
yep.
I'm excited to share what wisdom we've developed, learned, explored, discovered at the Glute Doping Lab. We've hit 8 years now and a couple thousand glute dopers on every continent except Antarctica. So we're working on that. But all jokes aside, there has yet to be a case, a scenario, a rider that has not benefited in an immense transformative way from simply working on the fundamentals that we teach in glute doping. I can't stress that enough. So in your intro where it's like, the glutes may be the missing link. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to fight you on that one. It's the entire foundation of all performance on the bike. It just is. Like, it's very easy to defend. It's the truth. So I'm excited to get into it because wherever you ride, whatever you do, what level you aspire to be at, there are glute doping gains for you. And the name is implied. So you always remember that you got to work on the glutes. And if you're doing too much of it to try to get too much benefit, you're doing it wrong. So we want to break some lies off here that like just doing more and suffering all the time is the answer to getting better. I like the suffer sooner. No, do the work now that's specific and good for you. And wow, you continue to reap the benefits, and then they, compound over time. So let's get into it, my friends. How can I be of service today?
So Travis is going to think I set you up for this because this is exactly the conversation we've been having. So we're real big on trying to help people with planning out their next year and try to help them meet their goals for the upcoming season. And all the work has to start now, right? So it always starts like right now. Now's a lot of people think of it as the off season. There is no off season. Now is the time to start preparing for next year. And so we've been talking about our own plans and hearing you say that, like, just going out there and flogging yourself on the trainer to rack up more miles and more volume may not be the answer. You got to get back to, as you said, the fundamentals and really practice on the core techniques. And so before we get into all the glute doping, I want to hear a little bit more about just your background. So you're a PT in SoCal, and just like maybe just a little bit about your background and how did all this come to be? 8 years in the making. Like, it's been 8 years now, but how did it really get off the ground? What started this whole thing?
October 13th, 2016, I was sitting in my second year of my 3-year doctorate program to become like a physical therapist. I had been racing bikes for like 6 years by then. I'd already been a state champion road racer here in California. So like, I like cycling, I like racing, I like winning, and I know how to. So like, this is just fact. And so I have that perspective. I want to win, man. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my favorite movie is Nacho Libre. Like, I want to win. Like, it's important. I'm about it. So when I was I was having a natural knee pain problems you get from just riding bikes, and you started learning about glutes and biomechanics and yada yada yada. And I was like, man, I really want to start helping people with this. I had this dream, and no one gave me permission yet to go after it. So we had a guest speaker one day, and I'm Shante Cofield. She's my favorite mentor I've ever had, and she mentored me for years. But she gave me permission that day. She's like, you can just start right now, And that day I started SoCal Bike PT Instagram. My first post was on the same bike I still have, a giant TCX from 2016.
It's a good bike.
Yeah, it's a great bike. And it's just like, hey, I had this idea to like take what I'm learning here in PT school, try it on myself and my friends, and kind of share it here. We're 925 posts later, 8 years later, 2,000-3,000 or something like that, depending on the count. The glute dopers, people have either like done our program or done services or done one of our challenges. And it's been quite a journey because I'd never thought this was possible. This isn't exactly what I wanted to be doing. Like, I thought it was just a dream. Like, treat some PT people on the side and then like go ride my bike. And then slowly over time, it's become my full-time gig to where like it's a passion that's turned into a profession that now is a service, ultimately to glorify God in my life. And so I'm grateful for the blessing he's had to get to this point. Personally, my accomplishments along that journey is mostly because I just wanted to go race bikes and get better. And I had this dream of like trying to become like a pro cyclist, because we all think in our hearts like, I could go do that.
I could go do that.
I could totally go do that. Like, I'm sitting on the couch right here, like, man, I could totally climb that thing. And so something inside me was like, I kind of want to try. Like, don't you? If someone's like, hey, you want to jump in like a legitimate bike race and see if you can hang on and finish the thing? And, I live here near Redlands, California, where there's the longest running, most famous, best bike race in the country. It's called the Redlands Bicycle Classic. It's like 5 stages. It's amazing. It's like 300 something miles. And so I set out to try and go do this in 2019. I was like, I'm gonna start training. And on my first day of training, I got hit by a car. Seriously, like, boom, from behind. And I'm like sitting in the ambulance, like, I just paid for the coach. Like, I just paid for the coach yesterday. Just paid for the coach. Like, it went through my mind. My leg doesn't work. My shoulders don't work. I just paid for the coach. It was so frustrating. It was a 3-year journey back. And then in 2022, I did the Redlands Bicycle Classic. I did all 5 stages. I finished dead last, but I have a GC time. I'm right there.
So you're there.
Yeah.
I actually did it. And I went on the attack once in the crit. And like, I attacked Legion of Los Angeles. I got the jump on Freddie Ovett and made him chase me for 1 lap. I died and then hid back in, but I got it on camera. And for like 2 minutes, I was like, God, let that. Right. Like, not because I want to make my career out of it, but because like, I wanted to actually see if it was possible. And like, on the journey to there, it forced me to get breakthrough in my own fitness and my own biomechanics, my own injuries coming back from getting hit. God was bringing me clients along the way that like would challenge me with my same injuries. Like, my shoulder wasn't working, and I got this young man who had brachial plexus palsy, where you don't have a shoulder that works at all. And all of a sudden, we got him riding bikes again. Love this young man, right? His name rhymes with laser. That's all I'm going to tell you. Right. But that's where I'm at now, which is we have our office here in Redlands, California. It's the Glute Doping Lab. We have like our virtual stuff that we do anywhere. We go to events, we do group classes, we host camps, we create content. It's all about trying to teach, preach, and deliver like the good news of glute doping, which is like there's so many lies about how you get out of pain or get out of problems that like you can ultimately fix with where's my stupid fans? Where's this one? You know what you can fix with just this and some time and some knowledge.
Yeah.
Right.
Most things, but it's like, so that's kind of like what's important to me about my story that I think is related to most people with glute doping that is important to you guys. Racing wise and cycling background, I ride all the bikes. Like if it's got a motor, if it doesn't, if it's got 12-inch tires, if it's got 700s, time trial bike, I've raced it and I've tried to win on all of them. And if I haven't, I have aspirations too. So
nice.
That's where we're at.
That's great.
I mean, you really are living the dream. I mean, there's a lot of people that would love to do their passion for work, and you found a way to make it happen. And that's amazing.
I am grateful.
Yeah,
I am grateful. I am grateful. And ultimately, I realized a long time ago that, like, you know, I had a heart posture change a couple years ago where ultimately I was trying to, like, first I was doing this for me because, like, I need to learn, or if we can help them break through, whether it's pain or breakthrough in their fitness or breakthrough with some lie or habit that doesn't keep them living right long periods of time. Like you say, we don't like the seasonality. Like, man, I'm healthy every April to August, right? And then just trash the rest of the year. And I'm like, as a PT in my career, I'm privileged to be exposed to people from all spectrums, of all ages, of all conditions. And you're like, wow, when you start seeing how this stuff adds up, you're like, you start making different decisions. Like, I think I'm going to get up earlier. I think I'm not going to drink anymore, you know, during the week. You know, I think I'm not going to, you know, have cheese on everything. It just starts. That's what we got to do. And so what we do in glute doping is just preach the truth. Everything's black and white. There's no mysteries here. Like, if you have a problem, we know how to solve it because everything can be solved pretty much.
And so you kind of hit on it that, I mean, it really is all walks of life, all skill levels that glute doping can help people, you know, reach their goals. I remember when I first ran across your program and was trying to figure out, you know, was glute doping right for me. I remember you talked in maybe one of the early on videos about like newer cyclists, because I'm a newer cyclist. I started cycling on the road in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. So that was sort of my way to get out and start, because I had to get out of the house. I couldn't be in the house anymore. But just like a lot of people, when you start adding on the volume, all of a sudden you get these little pains that pop up. And I've been very fortunate. I don't have a lot of knee pain, but I remember a graphic that, or an explanation you gave about people. And it's something like, you know, after the first 1 to 3 years, like people start to tack on volume, then all of a sudden they have these pains and they just keep, so you probably recall which one I'm talking about. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and that's usually a breaking point. Either people just kind of give up the bike or give up the sport, or they want to dive deeper into it and they want to fix their problems. And I think, and so we kind of started off, you start off with glutes are the sort of the foundation, but by 2 to 3 years in, you've probably already started a lot of bad habits. I know I did. You know, I started a number of bad habits, and now I'm trying to deprogram those. And that's one of the things I think really caught on to that's why I sort of gravitated to glute doping, because it felt like a free path to power. You know, like I felt like I had it was like a free path to power, right? So maybe like talk to us. Because that's what it was. It was like, it's like, oh my goodness, like you can unlock, it's always been there, but you didn't know how to access it, right? So can you just talk a little bit about like how,
I'm literally taking that note on my phone
please,
right now. I'm real.
But just talk about like a little bit that, like how it can help both the entry level, but I mean, I know you've helped out some pretty big names out there in the world as well.
Yes. The simplest way to put it is I always ask someone when they come into my office, when did you learn to ride a bike? Travis, what age?
I've been riding bikes since I was a kid. So that was like a mountain bike. 13.
I could pedal,
probably
no
serious.
Training wheels, ride a bike.
Yeah. So like 5 or 6.
13. 5 or 6. Great.
Yeah.
Danny, what about you? What age you could ride a bike, no pedals, like no training wheels? Like
it would have been 5. Yeah, 5 years old.
Great. That is your technique.
Mm-hmm.
Until 2020,
Right.
pandemic hit.
Right.
And then he said, I think the carbon one.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I also worked at a bike shop 5 years.
Okay.
Fixing flats and like standing near bikes, pretending to work on them in between selling bikes to people while I was going to University of Laverne, earning my kinesiology and sports psychology degree. I was like, that's my other background is exercise physiology and sports psychology. So I'm like, I've been studying this a long time, 10 years. And so I'd be like, people come in and they'd have complaints about pain. Oh, wrist pain, back pain, knee pain, this. And at the time I'd be like, all right, so we got to get you a different saddle. Like I was in the bike shop thinking. So I watched every week someone walk in like basketball shorts and a tank top. I would fit them with like the Giordana, the kit, the match, get the helmet. Hey, 10% off accessories when you buy cash. Yes. All right. You need the helmet, the glasses, Oakley's, the blue ones. They walked out and they looked like a Doug, but they look like a cyclist, but deep inside, if you understand, if you know, their technique for riding a bicycle is that which they first developed upon interacting with that piece of equipment at age 5. There's no way around it because we all understand and say it in our common pop culture language. Oh, it's just like what? You can't forget how to do it. It's just like riding a bike.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right. That's right. I'm a drummer, so I do all the I'm the drummer and guitar player. Like that's where it's like, no. When you said it, like deprogramming bad techniques. So Danny and Travis, I'm gonna pick on you, Danny, because you said Danny, 5-year-old Danny's internal technique, and I have 3 children under 10, 9, 8, and 5. They all rip bikes, and I've all taught them well. But I've observed how kids literally develop and how they get on bikes. I was a pediatric physical therapist before I ever did cycling. So like my background is very interesting before I got into cycling. So 5-year-old Danny becomes 2020 Danny on a road bike. At first, you don't have enough cardiac fitness to ride enough to hurt yourself. You don't. There's this threshold. There's a threshold of hours per week or lower, or intensity or lower, that the bicycle is purely a piece of exercise equipment. It's just like, Dr. Tim's not a runner. Like I don't have opinions on running shoes. I don't plan runs. I run in barefoot boots and I can run hard and fast and forever. I live in the mountains, but I'm not a runner. So I don't consider my running shoes like this piece of equipment. So there's people that ride bikes that until they reach that level of seriousness, it's literally just that. They're like, oh, I hit it with the car and just parked it again. I'm like, all right, so you're not a cyclist. That's just like a bike you own. Because the cyclist would have went,
That's true. That's true.
So about year 2, depending on where you are in the world, because you have times to ride year round, or the lifestyle, and typically I find like professional or medium income level really defines that, right? Like you're slaving away 60 hours a week to put food on the table. Cycling isn't your sport. You're just not, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
You typically have to be in a certain lifestyle. So what you're talking about is the breakthrough that happens where everyone's body breaks down. You get about 2 years in, you get about a couple thousand miles a year, and slowly over those 100 to 200 to 300, 400 hours, sitting on that saddle and riding with the 5-year-old coordination. It's just coordination. Move this arm with this leg. There's no technique to it. Just like swinging a stick is not swinging a baseball bat, is not swinging a golf club. I can swing a baseball bat. I'm okay at golf. I can hit someone with a stick. They're all forms of swinging, but the technique gets really refined. So what you encountered is with every glute doper on the other side of conquering this problem that every bike rider has, not some, all. I'm sitting on my chair. Actually, I'm sitting on my couch in my chateau in the French Alps right now, obviously. You guys are sitting in your, you're in your Flemish field, right? But we're sitting down. So like Are your glutes on and firm and generating power as the strongest muscles in your body, or are they off and inhibited?
Right now they're off. Yeah.
Yep.
Why? Rhetorical question. The pressure you sit on, your brain says, chair. I don't need to use that right now. Off. That same sensor and subsystem exists when you mount the bicycle, because this piece of equipment was invented in 1850-ish in its bicycle pedal-driven form. So you have to honor that the moment you decide to graduate from, I own a road bike, things fun to ride, once a month, to I've got my 3 rides planned this week. When you make that jump, if you skip the glute doping, which trains your body to be able to turn on the glutes and core outside of that inhibition that comes from mounting and being attached to the bicycle with 5 points of contact, 2 of which you're literally clipped into speed play. Like I can't get out of the thing. Your brain just went, okay, turn off the glutes, turn off the core, because I have arms to lean on my table. I'm clipped in like ski boots. And then we just go like, things fast, just pedal as hard as you can. And so when I go on group rides and I look around, you can tell those who are like, and with love, their kids inside in large grown-up bodies riding road bikes.
Yeah.
The transition to getting your technique refined is where you get off the bike and you start developing the core bracing, breathing, and pedaling coordination. It's the first 3 things no one has ever been able to do that comes into my office. I've had Olympians, World Tour riders, a Grand Tour finisher, national champions, all your favorite bike riders been through my office.
Yeah.
None of them once could ever, brace the core and breathe. Oh, dang. Okay. And then pedal smoothly. Can't do it, because outside of the bicycle and you're clipped into it, it's an ergonomic machine. Like it'll perfectly pedal circles. And the breakthrough happened when I realized I was working on rotation at this place called Covina Hills Sports Medicine, Covina Hills, California. Dr. Mark Baker was my mentor, Dr. Michelle Ribozzi. They were doing, their expertise is basketball players and ballet dancers. And I'm like, I love cycling, and Mark rode bikes. And he was like, the glutes kind of solve everything on the bike. I was like, what? And it just never stopped. Like that's what happened. Like, he had these like TV with these monitors you could glue onto the butt, and they would put the electrical activity onto the screen, and you could ride the bike, and you're like, oh my Lord, on the trainer. And it's just quad doing everything. The glutes are off. And then if you like kind of did the weird wiggle, almost like you're trying not to release a premature bowel movement, your glutes are fired. You start pedaling. We were like, this is so weird. How come we can do this when we pedal hard, but not when we ride zone 2?
Right.
And he said, well, it's too easy. I went, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
How come, like, I remember my peak racing numbers, because that's what you are forever, right? If you hit it once, you're not forever, right? Like, seated power one time, I did like 850 watts for like 30 seconds, desperately in a race. Why? Couldn't stand, because my chain would fall off, and I have it all on camera. It was the championships here in California in 2022. And I was chasing like Freddie Ovett and Corey Williams for a points frame for the series, and I was in the yellow jersey. I couldn't stand. So I didn't get points frame, obviously, but I hit 850 watts. And afterwards I went, standing, I could do like 1100, maybe 12. So I'm missing 500 watts from just standing. And then the flip went, I can do 800 seated. How do I access that coordination and control, and then just dial it down to zone 2? Because my other background is in like race car driving. Like I grew up and I went to karting school, and I learned how to drive like a Formula 4 car. Like to this day, I love driving manual, and just I love it. My dad has a Mini Cooper. It's all tracked out with the John Cooper Works turbo engine. Like we love race cars.
Nice.
Our family just love racing. So bikes is like just
extension of that.
Wheels.
An extension of that. Yeah.
Right. But there's a thought there where it's like, I've driven crazy race cars, and like you can drive them 30 miles an hour. Like you really can. They go along, and all the power's at the ready. Why can't we build our power curve in a way that we can have the power made to order,
Mhm.
right? Like, okay, so one of the first things you work on in glute doping is, by the completion of like one of the glute doping standards phases you complete and restore and rebuild is like, you should be able to get about 80% of your zone 2 power, like that number,
Mhm.
from glutes. How do you measure that? It's a subjective thing. Like, you
Yeah.
can lie to
Yeah.
yourself and say it, but when it's like, oh wow, my glutes doing everything, and my quads are like, they're not completely relaxed because that's impossible. They're
Mhm.
almost just like regulating the smoothness of the power distribution through the knee joint.
Mm.
Same for the hamstring.
Yeah.
And people fight me all the time on this. You can't pedal bike with just your glutes. I'm like, at Costa Clean Hospital, there's a woman with a paralysis from spinal cord injury. I have video of that. If
Mm.
we nuked her glutes with some electrodes and she's riding a bicycle. Why? Recumbently, but I'll pedal the thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
paralyzed. So you just turn them on. Because the nature of riding a bicycle is you have 4 joints: hip, knee, ankle, foot, clip in with the pedal. So as long as you have a propulsion from one axis of rotation, if the other ones are fixed through a joint range of motion, they're not going to get inhibited through the rotation. It'll just propel. Humankind figured this out when we invented steam engines. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
The piston is only at one end, and then so I figured out glute doping. If you just turn it this way,
Mm.
you can just pedal all the power from the glutes, and then as the demands of racing. So my specialty is crit racing. So it's always about like
Yeah.
constantly,
Yeah.
right? So the goal of the pros is, can you do the first 45 minutes and average under 200 watts? Bet y'all didn't know that. Like, if
Mm.
you were
Yeah.
one of the best in the country, I think Justin Williams told me that. I tried to average 200 watts for the first 45 minutes. And I went, boy, you are like my friend, brother. Like, you hit me when we race. You're huge. I love you. How do you do that? He's like,
Right.
it only takes 5 pedal strokes to get through turn 3. I went,
Mm.
oh boy, that's good. Thank you. And I started to realize that when you get to the level that you have all the power, and then you just count how many pedal strokes you don't do, and then when you generate power, you can make it to order. Now you're on the level of performance that like our top level of Olympians and World Tour and like your famous name people, they need, right? So if you're a
Mhm.
sprinter and you want to win races, the MO is always have as little energy to spend before you get to the line, right?
Right.
And then be as
Yeah.
fresh as that kind of stuff. So that's very like low to high how glute doping kind of goes whole across spectrum. But the idea is basically your technique you first learn to ride a bike you coordinate with is not the specialized professional technique of cycling on the road or the mountain bike or the gravel bike or the track bike or the time trial bike. Like, they are all highly specific techniques that you can work on and approach mastery for your entire lifetime.
Mhm.
So for your overall wellness and growth and formation as a human, I tell everyone it's important. You should tell my sons this, my daughter too. Pick things that you can pursue mastery across a lifetime. Honestly, pick a
Yeah.
Yeah.
musical instrument, pick art, pick some kind of sport or game or something. I tell them, like, daddy's been doing drums for 24 years, bass guitar for 15. It's like
Yeah.
PT for 10. Like, you're just getting started. And so I encourage anyone who's like, when you get to that spot, like, I don't know if I want to get into it. It's like, well, can you imagine your life without riding your bike? It's like, no, my quality of life would go down and my joy would be greatly diminished. It's like,
Mm.
well, that's worth fighting for, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
also it benefits you in so many health ways that in the
Yeah.
long term increase your life with longevity and resiliency. If you can get past the part where, like, oh, my knees hurt.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone comes to me like, oh, my knees hurt. I'm like, man, we're still talking about this thing. Like, we solved that. There's so many other benefits on the other side of your knees hurt that you can
Mhm.
ride bikes and benefit your life that I want to guide and shepherd everyone into. So that's
Yeah.
ultimately what we're here for.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, like, just going back to the point where like people just don't think that your glutes can be involved. I'm like, well, just think if you had an extra muscle group pedaling the bike, because if you're just quad dominant, you're just using one set of muscle groups to just push the pedals. Just like think what would happen if you shared the load.
Bingo. Yeah, so
How much energy you would save.
I agree, and that's a great point. There's energy savings, but here's the real zinger we always say as well. It's common to talk about quad dominance. Quad dominance, quad dominance, quad dominance. No one knows what that even means. Just like people say, well, I'm right hand dominant. I'm like, well, that's great. Which hand's stronger? Well, my dominant one. I'm like, typically not. Typically the other hand. If you cut a zucchini, I'll hold that sucker down on the left, and then I'm getting to chopping, right? Dexterity's in the right? The strength and power's in the left. I'm a guitar player. My left hand, fretboard all day. But the right hand, I got the long nails so you can do the thing. That's what we got to work on, is remember that, like, okay, what if when your glutes are dominant, it means your brain, when deciding to pedal, recruiting on the way down, stops from spine, core, glutes, knees, feet. That's the order. Spine, core, glutes, knees, feet. That's always the order. Spine, core gets to the glutes and says, how much work do I want to put here? For normal human movements, walking, running, squatting, jumping, anything that doesn't involve an implement, right? Like running around, glutes are the workhorse. They don't die. They have the most aerobic capacity. Like, they're the reason, our ancestors could, walk really far, then sprint and kill something and carry it back. We try to replicate this now with CrossFit. Like, that's glute city. So the power is there. For the pain part, it's a biomechanical puzzle. If you understand it, it just works. So most people chase in bike videos, like, I gotta get the laser level and all my pedal strokes are all biomechanically perfect and I never have problems. And I'm like, I completely disagree. I've been riding bikes a long time. Ain't no pedal stroke ever been the same.
Yeah, that's what I find too. Like, because I do bike fitting, and I'm also like a USAT coach, and when I fit people, I'm like, oh, you're not going to look like Pogacar.
Yes.
Pogacar looks like Pogacar. You look like how you look.
Yeah,
Someone
it's just.
said to me, so how should I be pedaling? Should I be pedaling like Pogacar? And I went, how Slovenian are you?
Right? Are you his twin brother? Because that would be the only chance that you would get to be able to do that.
Like, no, bro. Like, you should pedal like you. Now we can unpack that. Like, you have certain body types and pedaling advantages and athletic backgrounds. Like, I fit like this NFL player who got into cycling, and he had terrible power, but he had like the glutes. He was an NFL player. I'm like, how do you not have this power? Like, you don't understand how important the interaction with the machine truly is for getting the performance out of you. This is, like when I found my perfect bass, I sold all the rest of them and I've never stopped playing it. Why?
Yeah.
The neck fit. My arm has been the same length. I can reach there and it's skinny, so I can do the thumb wraparound. Like, my bike, I've had the same GCX since 2016. Best bike ever. Fits perfect. Not because it fits perfect, just because it puts me, and this is what we teach in glute-doping, your fit should bias you into the ideal technique. Meaning, as soon as you move out of ideal technique, your fit should feel terrible.
Yeah.
Seriously. My favorite thing to do, I'm not a bike fitter, and I'm terrible at it. Like, all credit to you. But I'm good at that. Yeah, how about that? Is I bring them in and I always just flip the stem back to normal and put the seat in the ballpark, and I literally just make them look like a cyclist again. And I do it dramatically. And I leave all the precision tools. Try that. And then they ride it and they're like, I don't feel anything different. I go, great, get off the bike and do some of the clam 30-30s glute doping standards dose from the restore phase. I teach it to them, they do it while I just like tighten bolts, and then they get back on, and then all of a sudden, boom, their glutes are on, they have all this power, and their pain goes away, and they're like, whoa. And I'm just like, oh. And with love, I in that moment, you can be like, wow, yes, I'm the guy. I want to honor them, and I go, friend, it is not that hard.
Yeah.
I want to honor you. In general, you want your handlebars roughly here, you want your seat roughly here, and then if your technique is good and you have solid technique that you develop long enough on a consistent bike position, then you can argue with me that you can tell the difference. Until then, you cannot. So I tell people, don't go for a bike fit that chases the pain you're experiencing by making an adjustment to a comfortable position out of ideal cycling technique. Anything. See why you can't get into ideal cycling technique, which is the next question. Well, what's ideal cycling technique? And so we could go on that forever, but where can I serve you guys next? You guys have our agenda. Let's keep going.
Yeah, no, this is great. Because I think you kind of touched on like the whole stability, the sandwich, right? I remember that from the program as well as and so I think that's one of the things a lot of people don't think about is the how connected the body is. And then I know one of the big phrases you always use is always be activating, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Like what does that actually mean in practice? And then like you mentioned a couple like the Clam 30-30s. What are some of the drills that you've offered up to some people that really just kind of help make that connection? Because to me, the one of the biggest advantages I saw after completing the program was I knew what it meant to activate the glutes. I never really thought about it before. I have a job. I sit at a desk
Yeah.
99% of the time, right?
Mhm.
So I never really knew what it was like to activate the glutes, but those drills really connect, and if you get the brain connection to it. Now, when I'm on the bike, and Travis can attest to this, we just had like an 80-mile ride on Sunday, and
Oh,
my
Lord,
quads
that's
were
riding far.
yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was a gravel ride too. So, but my
Oh,
quads were
God,
killing
that's
me
great.
because smart me, I went for a run on Saturday. I haven't ran in 6 months, and I decided to go for a 4-mile run, and my quads were just on fire. So everything was, I was like, oh, I got to get everything I can out of the glutes today because my quads have nothing. And so always
That's
be activating.
activation
Yes.
right there. Your
Yes.
quads on fire after running once, not in 6 months, and then
Right.
doing an 80-mile bike ride.
Yeah.
Answer this question. What was in your mind's eye orchestra? You're listening to all your muscles. What was the loudest thing the entire bike ride?
The loudest thing were those
Like,
quads.
what
They
was
were
the sorest? Yeah,
the
like,
source was, I mean, the quads, they were killing me. And like, so what, everything I was doing to just take all the pressure off the quads and keep it in the glutes and in the hamstrings the best I could. Like, that's all I could do to get every climb. It was like, just please don't have to stand up for this climb. So,
perfect. So,
yeah.
humor me. Which side felt more worsey burny? Like, which side
The
was
left
worse?
side,
Like what?
left side.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if it's your left knee and quad, it's
Mhm.
your right side of your brain. Just
Okay.
that's what it is. All right. Roughly behind your ear, you have these two zones right here, kind of like by the headphones, right?
Yep.
One's called your precentral motor gyrus, and then your postcentral motor gyrus, or something like that. I'm
Mhm.
not a textbook, like go Google it. But there's a map of your body, and it goes head, arm, legs, roughly. It's called
Okay.
your somatosensory motor cortex, the big word. And so on this map, there's real estate for certain areas of your body for sensation. Your face, hands, your private regions, and your feet have the largest real estate on this map, right?
Okay.
Certain areas of your body have very little real estate, like the square inch between your shoulder blades, skin.
Mhm.
Very hard to be like, well, I'm not discerning whether or not I'm reaching into marbles or raisins, so I don't need that kind of like discernment with my sensory acuity. The glute region on the map is honestly pretty small.
So you were talking about like the size of the glute map in your brain is
Pretty small,
relatively small. Yeah.
relatively small. And then if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you're
Right.
sitting all the time, so I tell people, hey, the blessing of being able to like work some kind of job or profession or have a lifestyle where cycling is even an option for you.
Mhm.
Like the other stuff I do is ministry and mission trips around the world. I've been to Mexico and Thailand, and I want to go on more. And when you're exposed to different, you're like, okay, wow, it's a privilege I even own a bike and can ride it, and it's not my transportation. It's for fun. Like that is a blessing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when we understand that and then realize, like, okay, well now we sit at a job, and then our recreation is also sitting. The glute map just gets really small and not really like you don't get. It's not very. It's hard to find. But I
Mhm.
literally can't find it on the map. So I'm sure when you first started your clam exercise, where you lay on your side and you get your funky knee going with the glute band, and you're like, okay, well, my hip muscles, the front side ones by my hip
Mhm.
pockets, are
Mhm.
burning up like crazy. But I'm poking my big butt back here, and it's just flat and flaccid, and
Mhm.
nothing's turning on, nothing's contracting. And in my mind's eye body map, that part of the map is blurry and the resolution, like on the video, is all pixelated. There's no light.
Mm.
That is how most people exist. So glute doping is just the brand name for this process. It's so simple. It's just
Yeah.
PT. It's just
Mhm.
Yeah.
physical therapy. Like I'm a physical therapist at t-shirt.
Mm.
If you take a resistance band and put it on and you make that muscle start to work a little, it starts to
Mhm.
burn. And
Yeah.
then people go, I feel it.
That sensation burns
Wait,
into the map.
yeah,
Yeah.
but no,
Yeah.
huh? there it is, all the glory. And you're like, brother, you barely got the thing to turn on. You just, it's been so off. You've been in a cave for 80 days. The first phone light is like the sun. So activation means that as you do more of an exercise, the muscle activity, electrical activity, blood activity, thermogenesis, meaning creating heat activity, metabolism, meaning like if it's low intensity, you're starting to oxidize fat or, you know, release ATP to turn into energy. If you're an exercise physiology nerd, like we can talk about it. But the point is, you're getting the thing turning on.
Right.
And the brain map here is like waking up too. And you start to get the thing highlighted. And initially, if you've never done this before, just doing 2 rounds of 30 reps on either side of the band, like highlights it so much that I tell them, okay, you did your 20th. Okay, do one more set. Cool. I take the band off and stand up and walk around. I get them like, oh crap. And they get up and they start going. And I go, put your hands on your butt and lean back, start walking like you're in a parade. And I have them follow me. Like, I have fun doing my job.
That's
and
awesome.
then as they follow me, they go, wow, oh my God, I feel in my glutes when I'm walking. Is that normal? And I go, your glutes are the primary muscle for walking. In fact, if you don't have them, you can't walk.
Yeah.
Because man was literally made to walk. So if you're in a society and culture where cycling is an activity you're part of, you also are in a society and culture where to do that activity, you sit and you don't have glutes to even walk because you drive everywhere. So activating is getting the muscle to turn on more, turns on more here, starts creating more activity, which does in a sustained way. And I'm a doctor, so if you dose it daily in a repeatable pattern over time, and then scale the progression as you make adaptations to appropriate challenges in the direction of specificity you want to go. Right? Like, I don't race track bikes. I'm not going to go that direction. I race gravel. I'm going to go that direction. Like, that's where you get the breakthrough. And what happens is, initially, it's like this transient effect. Any kid or new person, you can test their coordination. You can go tap your belly, rub your head, and they'll suck at it for about 30 seconds, and then they can do it, and they always have the breakthrough. Wow! And then you go, don't practice it, and I'm going to ask you in a week. And then you try it in a week, and guess what? Same level of terrible. It's called practice. I was a music teacher. How'd you know I didn't practice? Well, this is easy. And you're not special. The other 100 kids I've taught this to could all figure out how to hit the stick 8 times and then hit the stick 8 times.
Yeah.
Let's go practice this together with grace. So glute doping is about practice. Everyone thinks cycling is about fitness. Cycling is not about fitness. It's just not. Cycling is about practice. Cycling is a sport. It's about how you ride the bike well. How you generate the power is the fitness part. And so if this is what I love about glute doping is, if you are someone not blessed with the God-given power you desire from the card.
Yeah. So if you're not blessed with genetic potential, like, you know, then you do have to train. Just like I'm not genetically gifted at all.
Oh,
but
no, me neither.
And I you know,
like a lab tested VO2 max of only 64 kilograms per liter per minute, which if you look in the training and manual for like the scales that they do, like that's a mid-range category 2. Like that's not even a competitive category 2. And I'm like, how am I supposed to like go do something? That's where we discovered like, okay, this problem is very simple. If you want to go do a pro stage race or a pro crit, right? Like that's what let's say a great example is what I want to do. Just reverse engineer it. All right, you need to be able to do 5 watts per kilogram for 20 minutes 6 times to get through the race course. Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Go to the lab. Well, didn't just have it, so let's find another way. It's a very simple problem. We break it down to like, well, in order to get the FTP high enough, you have to do the VO2 max intervals to bump up your aerobic ceiling to then do the base to bring up your floor. Very oversimplification of aerobic training. But when you do the 6 by 2-minute intervals and the power says 350 watts, it's like, whoo, that's where most people encounter some of the problems. They're like, oh, it's too much force generation. What I encountered is like, okay, well, on fitness, I could maybe do the first, second, and third one, just willy-nilly, however I get on the same hill. But by the fourth, fifth, and sixth, you get the natural power drop off, and everyone thought that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I remember growing up, God bless my parents, I'm Chinese. I did golf and bowling. So these are very repeatable, refined techniques where the advantage is in the millimeters of repeatability. And I'm like, same thing with cycling. So we started figuring out, okay, instead of just trying to use your fitness and whatever perfect bike fit and you just have amazing technique because you were born this way and that's your style. I hate that's my style. No, it's crappy technique. That's not your style. Right? When you've mastered all techniques, then you learn how to blend them well and do it with grace and souplesse. That's style. That's Tom Pidcock. It's much different.
Right.
You just have no core strength. It's not style or flair. But when you realize that, okay, there's 6 different ways you can generate the same 350 watts. I teach everyone this. So if you listen now, this is your glute doping benefit for free, right? 6 core cycling techniques. You have high cadence, low cadence, hands on hoods, hands on drops, standing, sitting. If you mix all of those, they are all independently different techniques. They are. Like you can do 350 watts seated, 120 RPM, hands on the hoods, up like a sail. 350 watts in the drop, standing, 60 RPM. It's actually really easy to do. That's 350 watts. So I started realizing and started training, okay, if I could underpace fitness-wise the first 4 of these intervals so that my heart would and lungs would keep up for the 5th and 6th, and then I used the techniques for the first 4 that I would just like really burn out. So like, sitting or standing or high cadence or low cadence. And I would really kind of commit to like 30 seconds of each or 40-20s is a good example. 40 seconds of this, 20 seconds of this. But I would blend the techniques and combine them. So I picked the same exact hill that takes the same 2 minutes. That way you have to deal with what? Power transitions, gear changes, tension in the bike chain changes as you try to transition. You don't drop your chain. Like these things matter. You lose races over this stuff.
Right.
But I started getting the practice of being able to consistently get my 5th and 6th interval to be higher power and feel amazing compared to the first 4. And I was like, hold on. This is what you can do on technique. It was like the difference in breakthrough when I was learning how to swing a driver in golf. I was just, I was 13, and my grandpa was like, now son, you gotta drill him, you gotta, get just Chubb's impressions, all the hips. A little technique, and you put 50 yards and no slice. I was like, but then you go to a smaller, 5 iron, maybe, 30 yards out from the tee, and you're like, this thing's a lot different to swing. Yeah, well, it's a funny, different cricket stick. And I'm like, so you have to have like 9 different techniques to play this freaking game. You walk around. Cycling is 9 different techniques, 6 core ones, and then what are your 3 specialties? Sprinting, time trialing, and then UCI legal arrow hoods. That's a technique you only need to be, but forearms, fun. Oh, sorry. Stop while your hands are on. You can't take your hand off. So if you master the core 6, and then if you have aspirations for performance, you work on the other 3, the technique part is what we teach in glute doping. There's no repeat glute dopers unless you want to aspire to a higher level, right? Like, or you crash hard doing something rad. Like, those are the 2 situations. It's not like, oh, well, we failed to teach you how to like do this on a bike for 5 hours. Like, no, it's very simple, and the benefits are there for you. You just got to learn that the right parts of your body, you got to do the right things. So I'll finish up with this, and then you can go where you need to lead me next. But your spine, core, glutes, knees, feet. Spine, core, glutes, knees, feet. That's the order of operations in which your brain sends out the signal to do anything, not just cycling. Like when I walk out my dog after this, spine, core, glutes, knees, feet. Same thing.
Yeah.
The spine in cycling has 3, you have 3 regions: neck spine, kind of shoulder region spine, lumbar spine. You have to have a bent over lumbar spine like not like an arched back in cycling and back squatting. Cycling is always like flexed lumbar spine, kind of a flexed thoracic spine, but that you have like an upper thoracic, almost cervical spine, a little bit of extension with your shoulders because you have to see the road.
Yeah.
No other real sport has that.
It's so unnatural.
Except crawling through holes to look for landmines in Vietnam.
Right.
Like that's basically right. Babies do this in crawling. That's why in glute doping we teach a lot of crawling. But the point is, you got to know what your spine has to be. Core has to have 3 jobs: bracing with your muscles, transversus abdominis, got to hold on all your guts and breathe. Your pelvic floor has got to keep you from things. Your outer core has to be generating the stability of rotating within 5-10 degrees of rotation. At the same time, like your core is where you can generate that huge spike in power for free if you know what you're doing. So to be able to coordinate the bracing, the breathing with your diaphragm and not just your accessory breathing, like most cyclists are missing, I don't know, I'd argue 20-30% of their functional lung capacity when they're in their cycling position, and has nothing to do with the bike fit. It has more to do with their access for their diaphragm to breathe. So, ask anyone if they want 20% more air in every breath if they're a cyclist.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Sign me up.
Right? Yeah.
I wish I may invented some thing.
Right.
Nope. Just lay on the ground and learn how to use your core, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to do the bracing, the breathing, and the pedaling. That's why your first core single leg marching drill, where you lay on your back and just kick your legs out like a baby while you try to breathe, has the most breakthrough for anyone with chronic back pain or knee pain. Because if you set in place the spine and the core, and then you turn on the glutes by rolling on your side and just doing a clamshell, like you're laying on your side and trying to like open your legs and close your legs, and looking back there, see if the booty's working. That, even done terribly, starts to turn on the glutes. And if you follow the order, right, the glutes' job is to generate power, is to provide proximal joint stability to the hip. What does that mean? The hip's a ball and socket joint. It can move everywhere. The glute is 3/4 of a globe shape. It goes from your intersection of your spine to your pelvis, down the crack, all the way to the underside, connects over your hamstrings, right?
So over your hamstrings.
Yep, over your hamstrings. And because it has 3/4 of a globe, the fiber direction can generate power in any direction. So if you're in the sideways in the wind or in the mud or trying to generate power in corners, your glute is where the drive and power should come from. The hamstrings and quads at the knee, they regulate speed. Like, don't get me wrong, spinning is winning. Like, I can pedal like 180 RPM if I really need to. That's not from the glutes, man. That's hamstring and knee. So glutes for power, quads and hamstrings for speed, the knee is the transmission. Literally, it turns the power down the leg. And the knee joint is interesting because the top and the bottom can rotate, but as you go straighter, it rotates less. So at the top of the pedestal where your knee is most bent, it rotates the most. It's the most unstable, and that's where you generate the most power. So the transmission problem is usually why people have knee pain. Trying to put too much power through, I put it in 4th gear and I tried to come off the stop sign.
Right.
It's like,
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
We're almost going. We're going.
Now we're going.
We're going now. But that's when okay, let's go for a lap of the park. They pull out the bike, it's like 53.11, and they mount it, and I go, the lower foot, so from down the knee all the way down, is just force application. It's the power applicator. And that's where we as cyclists are missing, and in my opinion, the most benefit is if you have a supple, soft touch foot onto your pedal. Like, you can feel the tire, you can feel the pedal, that is how you actually ride the bike really well. It's because you can, right? Like, I ride dirt, and dirt's about being smooth. I race crits. Crits about knowing that 5 more degrees over is crashing, right? Like, and that's where it's like, okay, if I'm using my feet as my dead mounting point, shove my foot in there, and my hands are...
You use your feet as dead mounting points, and your hands are...
just death grip on the handlebars so you don't fall off the thing.
Right.
Rather than your feet should be smoothly applying the touch of the power as you're finding grip in your rear tire if you ride gravel, right?
Yep.
Your intro, that's kind of clay with some rut. So you can feel when the rear tire gets on the edge and starts to fall into the rut. Oh, no.
Yep.
You can't feel that if your only way of controlling the bike is strapping your foot until it's numb and dead. Same thing with the hands. Hands are for steering input. It came from race car driving. It's called steering input, not steering. I put some steering input and then the car responded. That concept is how you're taught to drive. The bike's the same way. So when I corner races, I typically load up the front tire with more pressure, right? Pick my line. I apex once, right? And then I use the touch of the handlebars to feel the grip of the tire. If it starts to get a little loose, I pull out a little bit to increase the contact area of the front tire, or I'll add a little more pressure into my elbows to get some more body weight. And then that's how you can max speed through corners. This is what we aspire to as cyclists, and we're sold this lie. Like, no, you just need those tires. Well, you also need those tires and the skill to feel what 30 psi feels like through this turn on camber with loose on top of packed. If you don't know what that feels like, you can slide it until the grip happens, then you can just keep going. That's why you look like so cool, right?
Yeah.
All that fun and experience is on the other side of first training your spine to be in the right position so your core can breathe and you can pedal with the glutes generating power regardless of the direction or situation, where your knee turns out to translating smoothly with variable speed, and then your lower leg applies that so that you almost have the feeling like you're walking. When I'm riding the bike, I literally feel like I'm just flying through this thing and almost like I'm running upstairs sometimes.
Yeah.
And that is the ideal way, because when all the pieces work together, nothing really hurts except in the way you want it to. Oh God, I'm freaking dead for the bike. Everything hurts in a good way. And we've lost sight of that. We just go, well, it just hurts. So that's good. That's not suffer sooner. That's suffer stupid.
Yeah. Suffer always, which sometimes.
Yeah, that's called torment. And no one wants. I'm a fan of suffering. I really am. Like, suffering builds character, which leads to perseverance. Like, this is true. Like, you need to. I had to go tackle this climb today. I had to. I felt off. Like, in my spirit, I felt off.
Yeah.
And
know
so
how that works.
Now my knee hurts, so I can't go. It's like, hold on. It's like saying, well, I can't eat because my tooth's missing. It's like, you would go fix that. And so I want to make sure that anyone listening, like, it's honor. That's an important thing, because too many times when you ask someone for help with stuff, they discredit the intensity and severity of your problem. So there we are.
Yeah. So just in the last couple of minutes here, so just tell us a little bit more about the coaching services that you offer, and then maybe where can people find more information? Because I know you're on Instagram, I know your website, and I follow you pretty closely, but there's a lot of folks out there that don't. We need to get them plugged into you and get them some help. So talk to us a little bit about that.
First, God bless you, Danny, for following for so long. I genuinely think, like, if you ever led a group ride, like, it's like you look back, there's like 200 people, and you go, okay, so it's a left turn. It's a left, L-E-F-T, left turn. Like, oh,
which side's left? Which side's left? Oh man, I forgot.
Right. The pressure used to crush me because I thought I was responsible for everything, which is a huge lie. Like, I don't control anything. I realize my job is ultimately just to be of service. And so the way we can serve you well, most of my activity when I do it is on Instagram at GluteDoperDoc. But right now, just our website for everything, glutedoping.com. We make glute doping very simple. It's just the level you want to do it at. You can do it free with whatever we want to share for free.
So we got the free version, which you can just follow on Instagram.
Yeah, free version on Instagram, or join our Skool community, skool.com/glutedoping, Skool with a K. And in there we have all the literal exercise videos that I send for people for coaching for free. You just go watch them and do them. Like, that's the whole point. If you have no access, you just go in there, and we have live coaching calls every month. We're here to serve. But I understand that, like, you need some structure, you need some discipline, or else you're not going to get results. We have do-it-yourself program. We have one that's like $197. It's 12 weeks, plug and play. Like, Tim, I don't want to meet you. I don't want to do any community. I don't want people to ask me questions. I just want to buy the recipe and make my own cake. Like, that program has never failed to fix a simple case of knee pain or back pain. Like, simple. Have you been riding bikes the past 2 or 3 years? Have you ever spent some time to work on your body off the bike to make sure you can ride it well? No? Just do this every time it becomes football season. And you will always feel good by the time the sun pokes back out, right? And, you know, if you made the playoffs, great. And if you didn't, you got a lot more cycling time now. And now your knees and back feel fine. That's our do-it-yourself program. It's called the Bike Body Strength Program. What we spend our time doing, me and our head coach Scout and our new GluteDoper host, who's our guy Gabriel, is a graduate of our like rehab programs. Like, he's coming off a wild testimony he'll share one day. Like, we have our coaching services and we literally program for you specific dosing of like, here's what to do every single day to your phone. Like, what do I do today? We want to take out the difficulty of knowing what to do and why and who to ask for questions, because we study this stuff. That's the only reason people don't do stuff.
Right.
That's it. I don't know what to do. Well, here's what to do. Well, I don't know how to do it. Well, here's the video. Well, I had questions. Just text me. Well, what do I do next week? I'm going to program that for you. Well, when do I stop doing this? When you reach your goal.
Right.
Typically, on average, it takes typically about 3 months right now. We find someone comes in with some like, oh, I've had this knee pain I can't get fixed, or this back pain, or doctors, or I'm the mystery patient. And I'm like, yeah, cool. 3 months at $200 a month. It's like $600 typically to fix something. I'm like, man, if I had that solution when I was like broken with knee pain and working at a PT clinic with like 6 PTs, I had no clue how to fix it. I would have paid. I would have given my race wheels to ride bikes again. You know, it's like the severity is there. And then that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm the Dr. Wu. Like, you know, it's weird to boast in myself. I don't. I boast in the Lord. He's blessed me with an ability to approach any cycling injury and bring it back to a root cause that we can work on and make actual step towards, and work towards a place where you can ride bikes again and then ride them forever. We've had paralysis, car crashes, world tour athletes whose careers are on the line. Like, if we've seen it, we've had it, and if not, they're new, and we jump at these opportunities. But that's where I come in. We have our rehabilitation programs. We have our Peloton program and our breakaway program. So that's where, if you're actually like injured and you're like, I don't know, I think I need like doctor help, we have on our website, you can fill out a contact form and talk to me for free for 30 minutes, and I will try to fix you over the phone as best I can. And if not, be like, all right, I think I can help you, like, come on in. And that's our mission. And so we've never wavered from that. We've been faithful to it. And as people come in, if they're serious about glute doping and they want to get better as a cyclist overall, in a way so they can continue to grow ultimately as like a person, you know, like, we're not just writing here to prove our worth. We're ultimately trying to challenge ourselves to grow as human beings. Right? Like, ain't no glory me going out alone before dawn to get sweaty and cold. That's right in here, knowing that when I go into the rest of my day, that I have already chosen to confront the conflict and challenges of this world on my terms. That shifts your whole life. And to rob yourself of the ability to walk through this life with that perspective you can put on, and a place you can go process, and a place you can build relationships, then that's what glute doping's for. But if you're looking for a quick fix so that your knee stops hurting just so you can get back to like being better than everybody, I won't help you. I'll be like, look, here's the free stuff. If you can do it and it fixes you, great. But we're not here to make you miracle fast at this. We're not to pressure you on what you can. But I guarantee you that if you have something that we want to help you with, we'll walk you all the way there. And that faithfulness has carried us. And I didn't even know that you, Daddy, have really been like doing our stuff for that long. So I'm just here like, seriously, I tell my family, like, dude, I had people like who came back today. And they're like, what do you mean came back? Like, they did my stuff like years ago. And they came back. Like, what, they're broken again? Like, no, they're fine.
No.
That's what's shocking, is they actually came back to say hi. I didn't expect that. So I want that to be, I think, a testimony for glute doping itself, is not because I knew you or like, these hands did some magic, bro, fly me out to you. No, we just figured out a process that's repeatable and works for everyone every time, and then deliver it in a way that you can do it, and then you just reap the benefits. And it should be as boring as like, well, I have all my teeth again this year.
Yeah. Right.
No one's shocked. It's like, why? Well, I brush and floss and go to the dentist. I don't eat like trash. And it's like expected. And those are my favorite testimonies. I got an email from someone in Great Britain, like a year later, it's like, hey, mate, just want to let you know, I had some knee pain flare up again last summer or last winter because it's winter. And all I did was pull out my sustained gains program, my 10 glute doping standards that fixed me the first time. I did them, I think like 3 weeks in a row. Immediately back on the bike and riding like the hills of Wales. And he just sent me the email to tell me that. I was just like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Are you kidding me? And so that's why I would encourage you to keep doing your stuff and encourage every rider you walk with. Like, not everyone's going to be like really hungry to want to get better. You can't put that desire in their hearts. But if they hunger and then they ask, our promise is like, if you thirst and hunger for it, we'll deliver it in whatever way we can, because we believe that like the more people riding well are healthier, wealthier, better, and this is what we want. This is going to heal a lot of things. So
absolutely.
I thank you for you guys.
Yeah.
GluteDoperDoc.com. Just go there. Like, pay for the website to sound cool. Like, GluteDoperDoc.com. It's got the alliteration, Just go there. Everything's there.
Yeah. No, thanks so much. And like you said, I mean, I love everything you guys have put together. I've been staying real close to your Instagram page over the years.
Brother.
And, when you did the Skool.com thing, I jumped on there and I had to check it out because I just love how accessible you're making all of this. And for folks like us, so we're here in the Kansas City area, we're in the Midwest. There are not a lot of bike specific PTs out there. There aren't a lot of people out here that really understand it the way you do and the way you just explained it over the last hour. And you've made this so accessible to people, and I can't thank you enough for it. And I hope that more and more people have a chance to plug into your program and take advantage of it.
The dream, Danny, is this is like the real thing we talk about at our business meetings. As like, my dream is like I'm the glute doper doc because that's just fun. I like it. Like, there should be a glute doping certified PT or someone or bike fitter or trainer. It's not that hard. I made it simple. In every city or market with, what I'm saying? There should just be. And, and I think at some point down the line, it'll get there. One of my hopes with the Skool community, which I'm trying, as you're watching it experiment in real time, is like trying to take everything I've known, learned, developed, and all of this it's wild in here, friend. Try to put a nice organized way in Skool that other people can go, I think I could help my bike fit client yesterday with that. And and I'm Travis and Danny, like, that's what I want to encourage people to do is like, I don't know how that works, but like, no, I'm certified in it, so I'm going to do it. Like, you can make a retool certification, but like, I see all the wrong things happening. But that's one of the dreams I'm glad you said is like, hey, it starts with people who ride. It starts with people who care about helping people who ride. And you get some like, someone who's like 18 or 19, and then they would start working into their career and they love cycling. And all of a sudden, hey, I want to do what you do, Tim, but in my hometown and insert Midwest market here, right? That's starting to happen. So soon.
That's great.
I mean, it's 5 years.
it's all the same thing. We just want more people riding bikes, doing this stuff for as long as they're physically able to do it. Like me and Danny were talking on the ride this weekend. It's just we're like, how long are we going to do this? And I was like, I just want to do this for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Yes. So with glute doping, it sets you up to do that. Our motto is always daily over decades. The habits, the practices, the exercises, the mindsets, which you got to learn is repeatable to make sure that whatever performance you desire is not a hope to have, but like, I can't wait to experience.
It's just put in the work, do the things, and then you're going to reap the benefits.
And know that there's a community of people like you and me that genuinely want to sit down and bring perspectives and help each other with this, who want to be encouraging and grow, because like it's in our nature and our heart that we want that. So I encourage you all, get involved with the glute doping community in whatever capacity you want to or felt led to. Come say hi. I'm a real person. If you have a problem, contact us. We love to help. Like, we genuinely look forward to our meetings. Be like, what'd you see this week? Like, oh, I saw something spicy, bro. Like, dang, man, I had standard old man back pain. Yeah, you just got him on Restore. He's already better. That's not even fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's already better. Like, So thank you so much for having me. This is like an incredible blessing, and I can't thank you enough for making the time and inviting me on today, you guys. Thank you, Travis and Danny. I love you.
Yep. Thank you guys. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
All right.
We'll see you later. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.